How's it going, everyone? Today I'm back at you with a new experiment where we're going to be using a heat mat to see how it affects the germination of Red Garnet Amaranth, so stay tuned for more. So for this experiment, we're going to be focusing on only the germination. We will not be recording the harvest weight at the end. So what we're going to be looking for is to see if a heat mat can give us better germination than our non-heat mat side. So what is the same about this test? For all these trays that you see in front of me, each one of them have a hemp growing medium in them. And each one of them has been seeded with 15 grams of seed per tray. The only thing that is different is the color of the trays. If you can tell over here, I have my two pink trays, which these will be going on my no heat mat shelf. And these ones over here are both blue. These are going to be our heat mat grooves, so they will be on top of the heat mat. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to move over to the shelf and we will talk about what's going on over here. Okay, so we are over here at our shelf where we're going to be putting our amaranth trays. And on our top shelf over here, we have a 48 by 20 heat mat, which covers this entire shelf and is by VivoSun. This heat mat is controlled by this heat mat thermostat right here, which currently it's at 76.8, but we have it set to 78. That will actually rise up in temperature whenever we put our amaranth trays on top of this, because it will be better insulated by that point. So for the shelf below it, that's where we're going to be putting our pink trays, which is going to be our no heat mat trays. The reason why we chose the bottom is because heat rises, and if we were to put the heat mat on the bottom shelf, the heat would actually rise up and affect our germination. So we chose to do the bottom shelf as our no heat mat area. So inside of our grow space, we have a device that actually measures our temperature and humidity. And since it's a lot colder outside right now, our average temperature is about 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's the reason why we set this to 78. So that way it is 8 degrees above what our grow space temperature is. Okay, so let's go ahead and get these trays put on the shelf. I'm going to start with our two pink trays, and these will be on our bottom shelf. Got a little seed hole on there, so I'm going to pull that off. Now we're going to take our blue trays and we're going to put that on our heat mat shelf. And what I'm going to do now is we're going to take our empty trays and we're going to put these on top. All right, so we have these placed on the shelf now, and we're going to monitor them over the next few days to see how the germination is affected. So I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, so these have been germinating now for 24 hours. So we're going to pull the top trays off and take a look at each one. So let me go ahead and remove these real quick. If you remember from yesterday, these trays over here, the two pink ones, these are our no heat trays. And the two over here, the blue ones, were the ones that were on top of the heat mat. So I'm already seeing a really big difference here. This one over here, the radicals are just barely getting started and they haven't yet really come out of the seed holes. We're just starting to kind of see them do something, and that's happening on both of these trays. But if you come over to our heat mat trays, we have a lot going on here. So the radicals have actually fully come out of the seed holes and they are already starting to push their way into the medium, and that is happening throughout the entire tray on both of the trays. Okay, so we're already seeing a giant difference here in growth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get these lightly misted, put their top trays back on, get them put back onto their shelves, and I'll see you tomorrow. It is day 3 of our germination test. So let's go ahead and pull off these top trays and see what's going on. So let's talk about these real quick. So these two pink trays are our trays that have had no heat mat underneath them. They've just been the ambient room temperature, which is about 70 degrees. And right away, I can already see that we are getting good germination, but it's nowhere near as close as it is on our two heat mat trays. So these two have been on top of the heat mat for the past few days, and you can just see right away how much of an effect that has had on this compared to these two over here. It looks really good. Like, I'm extremely happy with this. I'm happy with how quick this process is going. And I actually want to see if we're getting any roots, which we are definitely getting roots. So what I need to do today is give them a little mist underneath as well as on top, because I am seeing a lot of roots here compared to these, which, I mean, these do have some roots, but once again, it's just nothing like our two on the heat mat. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to get these watered. We're going to put back on the shelf, and I'll catch up with you guys again tomorrow. Today is day 4 of our Red Garnet Amaranth grow. So I'm going to pull these trays off the top, and we'll take a look at all of our trays. Look at that growth. That is a huge difference. So over on our 2 trays that have no heat mat underneath them, you can already see that the amaranth itself is pretty much underneath the level of the tray. So it hasn't gotten that much height, and the cotyledons are actually pretty small as well. So let's go ahead and look at the roots. Let's see what we have going on. So we did get a really healthy root structure, so I am happy to see that. But still, the overall growth of germination here is just not as good as it is over here on our 2 that had a heat mat underneath them. So the difference with these ones is the amaranth is actually coming over the sides of the tray, and the growth is pretty much even with the tray itself. So the germination was majorly different compared to our ones over here. Oh, almost forgot. Let's look at the roots on these as well. So you did get really good roots. I am noticing a little bit of browning. That's probably our fault. We should have wetted this tray a little bit more to help prevent that. But we still got really, really good root structure underneath there. So it is good to see. So for this experiment, we were just wondering if adding a heat mat would give us any benefit in the growth compared to not having a heat mat. And for this, it absolutely did. You can already see right in front of me, and even over the last few days, that our 2 that had the heat mat were much further ahead than our 2 that did not have a heat mat. And the only big difference here was these were just 8 degrees warmer than these over here. So that does tell us that for Red Garnet Amaranth, that having a heat mat will give us much better germination than not having one. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you dislike it, give it a thumbs down. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the section below. We also have a Facebook and an Instagram. They're both at On The Grow Farms. And if you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel, it now pops up down here somewhere because it keeps moving it on me. And we also have a website now that has so much good information, and that is www.onthegrow.net. Stay tuned and keep on growing.